Thrall, thank goodness, there you are.
Look, Thrall, I'm really sorry to interrupt your farming and everything. Like, I know you've got loads of shit wheat to plant and everything.
But it really is an emergency.
It really is. It's Sylvanas, Thrall. She's gone crazy. I thought she was joking about being evil these past 15 years, but it turns out she totally bamboozled us, and she actually is evil, and we need someone as stacked as you.
As respected as you.
That's what I meant, yeah. To stop her.
Yeah, that's the way, mate. You go get your weapons. See, I told you this was going to be easy.
For the Horde.
For the Horde! Thrall, can I ask you a personal question, Thrall? Are you, playing Enhancement now?
Well, yeah, I mean...
Ooh, the thing is, we were really kind of hoping you'd come as Elemental, you know?
Yeah, or like at a push, Resto.
Yeah, Resto is like a last resort, like worst case kind of thing. But really, we wanted you Elemental.
But I made a new axe, though.
Yeah, and it's really nice.
A bit muddy.
Probably from the hole in the ground, yeah, but let's be real, Thrall. I've got the Doom Hammer, and even that's not going to make me play Enhancement.
Oh god, can you imagine? Okay, you know what? Now I think about it, Sylvanas isn't even that evil. Really, is she?
Nah, nothing we can't handle.
We'll be fine. You're probably good to stay here with your wheat.
Yeah, we'll give you a call if things get really bad and we need an Enhancement shaman. I'm sorry, we'll give you a call.
Give our love to the family.
Knowledge is power.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another weekly reset. Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdomshow, and like seriously, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks since our last episode, during which time there's been a honeymoon, there's been classic release dates and beta, there's been 5 different 8.2 PTR builds, there's been interviews, Q&As, cinematics, collector's editions, world firsts, world seconds, raid testing, and 57 new Belialar videos. It has been one crazy ride, fam, which we essentially missed. But we're back now, live with it. And we begin today because how could we not with WoW Classic? We always knew there was going to be some big Classic movements this week as soon as it became apparent that many of the most prominent names in the Legacy WoW Blizz community were being quietly ferried to Blizzard HQ for a secret summit. And look, it's a bit of a stretch for me to criticise anyone for being bad at keeping secrets, okay? I can't buy Evitel a birthday present more than like 2 days before her birthday, because if I do, I'll be so excited and pleased with myself that I will just flat out give her the present, and then I'll have to find something else to get her for her birthday. It gets very expensive. I am the worst secret keeper in the world, but some of these classic guys make me look like Gandalf, because it was pretty common knowledge that Tuesday would see some big classic news, and we got not only a release date of August the 27th, which is pretty much as late as it could possibly be and still hit the promised summer ship, but also that there would be a closed beta starting the very next day. And at the same time, there was the announcement of the 15-year World of Warcraft Anniversary Collector's Edition and in-game rewards, which we will talk about in a moment. Because from then on in, Classic was all that anyone wanted to talk about. We've talked about Classic a lot on this channel, so you know how I feel about it. I am very excited about playing it, not because I have fond memories of vanilla, but precisely because I don't. As a Wrath baby, I was always fascinated by those few years of WoW that I hadn't been around to experience, which is why I've always been a proper supporter of #NoChangesClassic, because I want to experience it as it was, as a museum piece really. And even though I don't think I could ever get excited about a new patch in Classic as I would a new patch or expansion in the current game, in the same way that I could never be more excited about Ocarina of Time than I would a new Zelda game, even though Ocarina is almost certainly still going to be the best, I don't mind admitting that I was totally swept away in that Classic hype too. And I know plenty of people are resolutely anti-Classic, or just don't give a shit, and that's perfectly fair enough. But if you're one of those ones who think that WoW Classic, a big by most people, then I'm sorry, but you're actually just wrong. Because when that beta went live, and yes, both me and Evie are on it, thanks for asking, Twitch, which is apparently how we measure these things these days, absolutely exploded for it. WoW has been the first or second place in the game's list since it launched, Asmongold and Soda Popping getting over 100,000 live views each on occasion. And yes, it is totally true that BfA pulled similar numbers when it launched, and that these total views come from Classic and Live, and that there are reportedly only 2,000 people actually in this beta. So yeah, people have no choice but to watch it because they can't play it. But whichever way you look at it, people are seriously interested in Classic, and it cannot simply be dismissed with an and with Classic sharing a sub with current WoW, calling it retail doesn't seem right anymore because, you know, you pay for both of them. It can only be good for the game as a whole, when what will doubtless be millions of players jump back in during the last days of summer. But what will they find when they get there? Well, by all accounts, vanilla, pretty much. There are some UI elements like settings menus which aren't faithful to their 2004 design. The optional raid frames are apparently not vanilla legit either, and even with the original models and textures, quite frankly, the thing doesn't look like it did back then either. The bottom line is, we are playing this on tech which is incomparably more powerful than even the best rigs that vanilla would have run on. And as for how faithful to vanilla the gameplay is, well, I'm not really in a position to say because I wasn't there, and herein lies just a little bone of contention. Because in a beta for a recreation of an old game like this, what is the point of a YouTuber like me having access rather than someone who has no online audience but who was actually there? There's been, understandably, a small groundswell of frustration from many who think that in such a limited beta, giving spots to online content creators is a waste. Because even if they were playing in vanilla, powering through content to get world first Whirlwind Axe or Razorfen Downs is always going to be better content than filling out a bug report form, you know? Bug report forms don't tend to get the sub-train rolling, and I get that. It's led to this being called the streamer beta by some, which is a little bit unfair. For one, it implies that all streamers are as clueless and useless as me, which is a bit harsh. Preach or Sakar or Asmon or any other number have big juicy 200 IQ vanilla brains and can totally test properly. And secondly, even if there are, say, 100 content creators with access, which feels like a very generous estimate to be honest, then that's still only 5% of the entire beta population, which is nothing. By definition though, it's the streamers and the YouTubers that you see having beta access rather than anyone else. So it feels from the outside like there's a disproportionate amount in there. And anyway, I might not have played vanilla, but when I play Classic on stream, I've got 1,000 pairs of extra eyes watching what's going on to point out bugs and tell me when stuff is right or wrong or what I should be testing. So the problem with me, Taliesin, being in this beta isn't that I won't spot the bugs when I find them, it's that I won't report them, because I never report bugs because seriously, I ain't no snitch. But it is a valid subject because, quite frankly, bug reporting in Classic WoW is a pretty difficult task. As a recreation of an old game, the team are explicitly trying to include those mistakes that plagued the original. So if you spot something which you think is wrong, it has to be a different kind of wrong to the way it was wrong in vanilla. So being able to glitch yourself underneath Stormwind, that's working as intended, fam, because that was in the original. Quests showing up inconsistently as an exclamation mark or just a dot. That's a bit of faithful sloppy vanilla programming right there. It remains to be seen how far the team will go with this. When asked if the Blood Plague, probably the most famous bug in the history of video game bugs, will be recreated when Zul'Gurub goes live, the dev's answer was a resounding and then there's the stuff that seems like it could be bugs but is genuine vanilla design. And yes, we all had a good old chuckle at the blue post that Blizzard put out highlighting common bug reports which were in fact just legit vanilla gameplay, like Taurens having bigger hitboxes or quest objectives not being tracked on the minimap or slow mob respawns. Oh, you sweet, sweet children. Lamau! Welcome to Classic, kiddos! So many people will cry over Classic WoW 10 minutes after logging in. That last one is a pretty common sentiment, but I don't think it rings quite true. Now obviously, like I say, I haven't made any bug reports because, like I say, I ain't no snitch. But even if I had mistaken these features as bugs, which I wouldn't have, doesn't mean that I dislike them, and it certainly doesn't mean that I'm crying over them. Because here's the thing, as someone who never played vanilla and is currently trudging through Classic in between making YouTube videos, I'm having a great time. There are things I like and there are things I'm disappointed by, but they are probably quite different from what you might assume. Like, I expected to just enjoy the nostalgia of revisiting the pre-Cataclysm world, and for gameplay systems that feel archaic and alien, and honestly, my biggest disappointment with Classic is that it isn't quite nostalgic enough. The biggest surprise to me is just how similar it feels to current WoW that I play every day. And I know you can't believe what I'm saying because you can point out any number of massive differences, and you're right, but that doesn't change the fact that it doesn't feel as different as I thought it would, as I probably hoped it would. Part of that is because I know the maps inside out, especially for the starting zones. There's no sense of discovering and working out the fundamentals of the game. I'm incredibly familiar with the concepts of WoW questing, leveling, abilities, professions, keybinds, interface manipulation, travel, chat, gearing, internet research, builds and rotations in a way that I wasn't when I first started playing the game, and in a way that can never be recreated, ever, for any of us. If the reason you are looking forward to Classic is to relive that sense of unknowable wonder you felt when you first loaded in, you might not get it. No recreation will ever feel like I did the first time I played WoW, because I know too much, and also because, you know, I have my own computer these days and a job. Yeah, this is a job, leave me alone. And to be honest, I hardly ever listen to Willhaven anymore. My life is very different is what I'm saying. So the nostalgia of Classic wore off a lot quicker than I expected, and you might think that's a bad thing, because without nostalgia, what has Classic got? Seriously? Well, this is the good news, because unexpectedly for me, the joy I found here isn't in trying to recreate those feelings, but in what a compelling game WoW Classic is in its own right. And I purposely use compelling instead of good, because the minute-to-minute gameplay in Classic is pretty shit. We criticise BfA classes for having 4-button specs, but Vanilla has more than its fair share of 2 or 1-button specs. And that's when you're even pressing any buttons in combat at all, which to be honest is only about 60% of the time. But there's just something about the rest of the game. The super slow pace, the long walks back and forth along the same roads multiple times, having no gold, spending as much time recovering between fights as in them, actually needing to use shitty armor and health potions I was crafting instead of offloading them to the vendor. That feeling that everything I do gives me some tangible sense of character progression. Finding a new inn or camp being a big deal because I can base myself here now, even genuinely wondering if it's worth buying white gear off a vendor because it's a big upgrade on what I have, and honestly I don't know where my next piece of gear is coming from otherwise. Intricacy of the gameplay and that sublime tedium of the loop is magical, and even though the initial gabillion people that log in for Classic will inevitably drop off, this game is going to be just fine, and it makes me wonder, what can BfA and future WoW expansions learn from Classic? Because another thing that surprised me was how much I enjoyed swapping between the two versions of the game depending on my mood. To be honest, between the two of them, it's quite possible that I'll never turn off my PC again. And whereas the whole point of Classic is that it is what it is and it's set in stone, warts and all, there must surely be things about Classic that could improve the current iteration. And in fact, there definitely will be. Ian Hazakostas revealed in an interview with Russian content creator Xslate that after they took Hunter ability Eye of the Beast out of the game, the code changed so much that they couldn't put it back in without like a ridiculous amount of work that they had to do for Classic. So that's done, and Eye of the Beast is probably going to find its way back into Hunter spellbooks at some point. Then there's the new alternative to sharding, which has been developed for Classic, layering, which sounds, on paper at least, to be a far superior system, keeping phases much more server specific than sharding's big homogeneous gloop, and which also doesn't sound like sharding, so it's automatically better. But there is other stuff too, stuff which would be a lot braver to add. Like, what if the next expansion, Tuskars of the Black Empire, features a much longer and more involved Classic-inspired journey to max level? What if, instead of taking players 2 days of non-stop grinding to go from 120 to 130, they take 6 days to go from 120 to 150, with some small power reward at each level? It wouldn't even need that many more quests than they would have added anyway, because I think Classic proves that the journey is fun if it's challenging, and that simply having to take your time on mobs that you can't blast through and journeys that you have to make is engaging gameplay. I also know that lots of you are being sick in your mouths at this very suggestion, and to you people, I apologise. It's just a thought based on what I've enjoyed about Classic so far. But the fact is, Classic is here to stay. It's inevitably going to be huge when it launches, and Blizzard have already said that they are open to looking into Burning Crusade and Wrath servers after that. So there is content for the legacy community for the next 8 years at least here. And I think that's awesome. It's great to have another WoW to play, and most importantly for me, it can only be good for the current game too. I'm really happy for all those players who finally feel like they are home, and I'm really excited about what this all means for my own home as well. Oh yeah, and I haven't tested Death Knight yet because I don't want to burn out before August the 27th, but obviously that's my main as we agreed, don't you worry.
That's not even slightly it for this week, I'm afraid, as we had 2 new 8.2 PTR builds to pick through, which include the new opening quests for Najatar and another round of raid testing on Azshara's Eternal Palace, which means we have now seen every single boss in that instance aside from the final battle against Azshara, and we will be taking a look at all of those things with a nice, big, juicy spoiler bot warning in due time. But before all that, something that popped up in an MMORPG.com interview with producer Shawnee Edwards, where she revealed that those long-awaited new Worgen and Goblin models we were shown at BlizzCon will be arriving in-game shortly after Rise of Azshara, and that when they do, they'll have not just brand new high-res limbs and smiles to enjoy, but also new heritage armor too, just like Blood Elves, Dwarves, Tauren, and Gnomes before them. And remember, these are available to all max-level characters who are exalted with their home city. You don't have to level a fresh goblin to unlock this stuff. It's not going to be a repeat of your Nightborn that's been stuck at 46 since September, okay? After Rise of Azshara most likely means 8.3, so it's not like it's around the corner or anything, which gives us plenty of time to fantasize about what the armor sets could look like. For Worgen, it's obviously got to be some dapper Victorian fare, possibly with a top hat, definitely with a monocle. A great opportunity to utilize that new long coat technology we developed for the Kultirans, for sure. But what about the goblins? It's a tougher one for certain, but I think with heritage armor, you've got to go with your gut instinct. A bomb with a double chin and a cane. It's obvious when you think about it, right? Shani also mentioned in that interview that we wouldn't be seeing any of Tyrande or Malfurion in 8.2. They won't be heading into Najatar to face off against their old enemy Azshara because, and look, this is her quote, not mine, you leave me out of this, okay? Tyrande has got her revenge for the Night Elves, and is therefore apparently pretty content to chill in Darkshore taking selfies with the Burnout World Tree. Now look, we're not going to get into this in any detail here because the Night Elves are a touchy subject this expansion, and while I don't think anyone would agree that simply driving the Horde out of Darkshore is revenge for the Night Elves, I am willing to believe that there's a bit of rebuilding and regrouping that needs doing right now that would take precedence over any official alliance business. I think Anduin knows enough to leave Tyrande alone for now, and she can come back to lay some proper shit down in her own good time. So Tyrande won't be in Najatar, but we certainly will be come 8.2, and this week we got our first glimpse at the opening scenario to get us there. And this is a blue spoiler bot situation because there's no major reveals here, but we are going to tell you a bit about these quests. After a Terran Gregory special to show the Horde and Alliance fleets getting swallowed up by the parting sea, both factions find themselves stranded among the detritus of their ruined fleets. Both factions then go on remarkably similar adventures with Jaina and Gen, or Lorthamar and Thelyssera, as they fight their way through Naga forces to a safe haven. Nathanos would come too, but he's busy. What have you got there, Nathanos? Looks important. Never mind, you just walk into the water, I guess. Yeah, nothing weird going on here. It's not a long questline, but it's a fun romp with lots of voice acting and a couple of cutscenes. The initial shipwreck area is stunning, especially for Alliance, and it's a great setup for exploring and questing on the rest of the continent. My only gripe is that after these initial quests, you can't continue the Najatar storyline without first heading over to Silithus to sort out our Magni's Heart of Azeroth problems. And I can totally see why that's the case. Blizz don't want you to forget to go and start the new Essence system, which lies at the very heart of 8.2, but it does totally break the momentum of Najatar to leave it again after 20 minutes or so, just when it was getting interesting. It would be nice to at least give the player the option of carrying on a Najatar and trust them to go and do the Magni stuff later in their own time. You know what would trust the player to do that? Classic. Just saying. Early opinions are still a bit split on Najatar overall, with some testers saying that beyond the story quests, the space itself feels a bit empty, beautiful though it is, and that's probably a fair criticism. My optimistic hat wants to say that's because Blizz are leaving space for those cool sounding world PvP events to happen, but at the moment it feels very much like a zone that the devs know will be flying around sooner rather than later. And don't forget that 2 or 3 weeks into 8.2 we'll be getting the new raid too, and now that testing on all the bosses except Azshara has taken place, we can go through every encounter one by one and give you the lowdown. Only joking. For now, we're just gonna talk about the one you're worried about. The underwater boss. And good news! AutomaticJak, whose footage we're using here, check out his stream and YouTube in the links below, says the Blackwater Behemout is bangin' and extremely cool. Phew. That's it, fam. We can all relax. The underwater boss isn't the train wreck, submarine wreck we all feared it would be, requiring interesting and disciplined positioning. But bad news! Preach says it's possibly the worst raid boss of all time, saying it's slow and boring and one note and ultimately pointless. Okay, so yeah, at this early stage, it's fair to say it splits opinion. One of the main mechanics wasn't working properly in the test, so it's probably not the last we'll see of the Behemoth on the PTR, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter if it's a good boss or not, since it's underwater and everyone is gonna hate it anyway, right? Instead, let's take a look at the new Mage Table model. Yeah, I know, right? Random, but very cool. Okay, you don't like that? Well, how about the new Mecha Pepe? I know you like that. Yeah. Have you forgotten about the underwater boss yet? To find out more about anything we've talked about in this episode, check out the relevant Wowhead links below.
And lastly, and yeah, I know it's a long one today, but we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't talk about it, WoW's 15th anniversary and the new collector's edition to mark the occasion. First of all, to the traditional in-game goodies, which this year, as you would expect for such an occasion, are a cut above the usual mailbox pet and limited use transmorpher wands fare that we've gotten used to. Okay, I mean, there is a mailbox pet you get just for logging in, and it's fine. Look, a little Deathwing, how nice. But then there's also the actual Deathwing, who's a mount. Yes, it's a Deathwing mount. It's a mount which is Deathwing. It's gorgeous and it's beautiful, and if the mount special isn't to shout a DBM style danger and do a barrel roll, then Blizzard are idiots and shouldn't be allowed to design anything ever. Apparently this mount is earned in-game by taking part in in-game activities that culminate in a new 25-player LFR raid, which will pit you against some of the most iconic bosses in WoW history. Who even knows what that is supposed to mean, but who cares when the reward is the Deathwing mount? Please do a barrel roll. And if you really hate getting things for free and you really like buying stuff, then there's also the 15th anniversary collector's edition for just $100 actual dollars. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, that's pretty expensive. I'm really keen to see how they justify that price. Well, I'm glad you asked. You get a 10-inch Ragnaros statue. I know. Some prints, a mouse mat, 30 days of game time, and 2 in-game mounts, which you'll also be able to buy separately in the store should you not want to fork out $100. But what you're also thinking is, I definitely don't think that that is the WoW Classic Collector's Edition, because you, Taliesin, very cleverly talked about it in a completely different part of the show to when you talked about Classic, therefore avoiding any potential confusion that this might be the WoW Classic Collector's Edition, which it's definitely not. But that might have occurred had you talked about it at the exact same time that you talked about WoW Classic. No confusion here. And you'd be absolutely right, we structured this show very well, except that's not a precaution that Blizzard took, announcing this beautiful expensive bastard in the exact same breath as the Classic release date, and thus risking mass confusion by a very easily confused population. Or so you'd have thought, because luckily us WoW players, and especially our forum users, are just a little bit cannier than that, and with the guidance of some very helpful and not at all outrage clicky creator coverage, easily differentiated between the game, WoW Classic, and the completely unrelated gameless 15th anniversary collectors. No, it was a shit show. obviously. Those mounts, in-game store for Classic! Also, love the fact that the greedy tossers only give you the mounts for only 30 days, so you have to spend more money if you find you like the actual mounts. What? How did any of that make you think that that's how it worked? Look, I don't have time for this. There's more shit show. Blizzard can shove all this up their ass, my 2 cents. Wow, no soundtrack included. Sad. I can see Activision already milking the Classic fan base with this trash statue, lol. It looks terrible. It looks nothing like Ragnaros. Last time I checked, Ragnaros was made out of lava, not gold. Now, finally, a sensible criticism that I can agree with. Yes, that's absolutely true. This is a shit Ragnaros statue because it's not made out of lava. Just like Michelangelo's David is a shit statue because honestly, how many people have you ever seen made out of white marble? Last time I checked, people was made out of meat, not marble, Michelangelo, you dickhead. This Ragnaros statue is just as shit as Michelangelo's David. But you know, that's not even what I hate most about it, because you know the thing that I really hate about this beautiful, incredible, amazing Ragnaros statue that I ordered literally within 5 seconds of seeing it was on sale? I just really don't think they've got the nose right, you know? I mean, his face, it's just wrong, isn't it? I just hate how they've done his nose. So to clarify, this is not the WoW Classic Collector's Edition. Those in-game mounts, the ones with great models but that look like their colour artists were part of the 800 RIP, you can't use those in Classic, obviously. And Classic doesn't have an in-game store, not even for realm transfers or character renaming. You cannot use these in Classic. They are not meant for Classic. These are for the live game. This is just a thing to own, you know? If you like to own things and you'd like to own this thing, then this is for you, I guess. Shall I explain it again? Oh, and we're back. Back from honeymoon.
Yeah.
Back from Japan. Back into the weekly reset. That was easy, wasn't it?
I mean,
we got there in yeah, that's not selling it. That's not selling it at all. Yeah, thank you. Good.
I meant that was back from Japan. That's what that's.
Yeah, but then you thought about the weekly reset and you were happy.
I went,
yeah, exactly. That's when I feel sad and I want to feel happy, I always think of the weekly reset.
Always.
And hopefully you do too. I'm very sorry this was a late one because WoW Classic.
Oh yeah.
Basically, we had to play a lot of WoW Classic for research and for science.
Always.
And that's what we did. So
always for science.
That's how we were able to report on it so intricately and so detailed and so knowledgeably. Yeah. And that's why this episode is coming out on a Monday. So a couple of things have been bothering me, and I haven't been able to sleep probably for the last 3 weeks, to be honest. And it wasn't the bright lights in Japan. It was the worry about world first heroic for guilds with a name a little bit like Immortalis. I know I'm worried about it. I know the people at home are worried about it, Evitel.
Yeah.
While we were away,
yes.
we missed it with our guild. We weren't part of it, even though we got Curve anyway, because, you know, we're pros. Did Immortalis Argent Dawn EU, yay, the good, brave, handsome, well-respected, the people's champion, Immortalis, did we get world first?
Well, I can tell you that we did.
Did we though?
Apparently we did. This is
Have you seen it with your own eyes?
I haven't, but I've been told by fellow guild members that we did. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go
I got sent a screenshot of the guild achievement, which if I was an actual real life person I'd have checked when I got home, but I didn't. Yeah. But we got the guild achievement, and I was assured that we got it before our new nearest rivals, Est Immortalis. No, I don't know about the evil Germans. Vox Immortalis. I don't know how they did. Okay, look, wow. Before we go any further, I just want to ask a question. Okay. I need to know. Okay. Oh, hang on. Okay, wow. Before we go any further, I just need to ask a question. No, wait. Okay, wow. Before we go any further, I just need to ask a question. Move on. I just need to ask a question. Where on earth did you get that amazing pin badge? That's amazing. Is that a T&E pin badge? Holy shit, I've got one as well.
Got one too.
Now, the thing is, you've probably not been listening to like any of the words we've been saying this whole episode. So transfixed and hypnotized were you by this. The pin badge. These pin badges have been made for us by our friend and colleague on Etsy. It's my cousin.
She has a skill, and she has a shop, and she's made us some badges.
And she uses it, and she said, hey, I'm going to make you some official T&E merchandise.
And they're really nice.
And we said, that sounds awesome,
So
but we don't want any money for it, because, you know, we're kind of like, we got all the money in the world. We don't need any more. There's only so many gold helicopters you can buy.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? There's only so... What's a really nice car?
Maserati.
There's only so many Maseratis you can buy, and we were like, we don't want any money for these badges, so instead we are giving our share of all of the profits from these T&E badges, which are on sale now in this Etsy store, which we are linking down below. And they're limited edition for now. They might not be limited forever if we sell out. But for now, they're limited edition, and you will help Special Effects, a charity helping disabled people get into gaming and to game.
It's really cool, and it's a worthy cause.
It's a brilliant cause, and even more important than that, it's some sweet, sweet official, official T&E button for you.
For you.
What do you think about that, eh? There's a link down below. It's next to our t-shirt store link, which we never ever talk about, and we're not about to do it now.
And one more special shout out to the Gillen family. Matt, Sonia, Seb, and Connor. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope all is well. Sending you good vibes and love and all the good stuff in your direction.
Not all the good stuff.
I mean, you know, you can't have all of it.
Oh, hang on. Oh, we didn't discuss this. Most of the good stuff in your direction.
Almost all of the good stuff.
Pretty much.
We'll keep a little bit just so we can keep going.
I'm glad that's so. Thank goodness there'll be no more news this week.
I hope
Thank
not.
goodness there's nothing going to happen. Thank goodness there's nothing more that needs to happen with 8.2.
Nope.
There's no release date or cinematic or anything like that. There's nothing that's going to happen with Classic. Nothing to. It'll be a very quiet episode of the Weekly Reset next week, I think. Can't wait. Be really good. But if you enjoyed this episode, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to help these episodes happen. Honestly, guys, without you, they wouldn't happen.
No, there would just be nothing. There would be a hole.
Not one of those good holes, though.
No, just
like one of those
very
rubbish holes.
bad hole, like a pothole.
That you hate.
I hate
You'd
that
be
hole.
so gutted. You'd do anything you could to stop that hole being there, and lo, you can. By being a patron. No more hole! Without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evitel, so thank you.
A whole lot less.
Oh my! If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Tips Out. No.
Tips Out, baby.
Sorry, are you trying to spice it up a bit? We're not him anyway. My name is Taliesin. From me
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.